person who is expert in martial arts chooses to be a good dad, and that is to skip a match to go to his daughter's birthday party. But the gang wants to kill him because he quit the match. The movie starts in a gym where Octavio Bergman, an MMA fighter, prepares for a fight. After work that day, he sent her daughter Leonie a birthday card. He was training with the other boxers that day when Paul, his manager and friend, walked in. Octavio asked when the fight would start because he had to attend his daughter's birthday party. Octavio feared he would be late for the birthday party because of the delays. He called Larry and said he'd be there right after the fight. Then he hung up the phone with Paul and Kima, his trainer. They went to Nick's arena, which was where the match would happen. A happy man named Chino Wrinkler greeted them as soon as they walked into the arena. His brother Chino was showing Octavio respect. When Octavio's opponent, Beno, came out of his waiting room and made fun of him. After seeing him, Octavio was even more motivated to beat the man, so he quickly got ready in his waiting room. Then Octavio got a call from Mina, his ex-girlfriend and baby mama. She yelled at him for breaking the promise he made to their daughter, that he would get to the birthday party, but he didn't. Due to the argument, Octavio was tense and wanted to end the fight immediately. But just as the fight was about to start, David, Mina's lawyer, called him, told him that Mina was already filling out a form to take Leonie back for good. Even though Octavio disagreed, Mina took David's phone and made fun of Octavio for letting Leonie go hungry. The girl would not eat because her dad said he would bring her cake. He told her he would take her out to eat, but they thought Octavio would break his word again today. In that case, she won't let him see Leonie again until he gets to the party in an hour. Octavio ran out of the arena with a plan to get to his daughter because he didn't want to lose her. Before the hour was up, something bigger was going on in the arena that Octavio didn't know about, because it had to do with him. So when he ran away, he made himself a target without meaning to. When he tried to run away, Chino Wrinkler saw him and sent their goons after him. As a cab is useless during rush hour, Octavio got up and ran. He was surrounded by Chino Wrinkler and his men, who beat him easily. After they knocked Octavio out, they took him to the car and planned to take him back to the match. Octavio quickly woke up, though, and beat everyone up. After that, he left the area. His parents called, and they didn't understand why Mina told them not to go to Leon's birthday party anymore. Then Paul's call came. Paul said that the fight was fixed and that many influential people had bet on Octavio to win. The important people got mad when Octavio ran away and went after him. When Octavio ran back to the gym, he saw Kima and two other boxers, Bruno and Annika. With their help, Octavio fought off the men who were after him before running into the office to hide. Even though the others were fighting, Kosa followed him and asked what was going on. When Kosa found out what was happening, he was shocked and agreed to help Octavio. Octavio got away through a window while she fought with the bad guys, Bernardo and Annika. Seeing a police car, he knocked on the window to get their attention. The police just stood there and stared at him until a car stopped. Octavio got angry and turned on the police, which almost got him arrested right after he almost hit Octavio, taking some of his time while they were going to the police station. It was Chino Riker's brother who hit the police car with his own. Octavio ran away from the scene right away before Chino's goons or the police caught him again. He took a short break to call Mina and say he was sorry he couldn't see Leonie. After that, he went to the store to get Leonie's cake. Kosa was already there, and they were about to leave when Chino's brother walked in and smashed the cake. Octavio became angry and beat Chino's brother badly before leaving the area. On his way out, he ran into Beno, and the other MMA fighter ran after him. Lucky for him, a biker named Rico showed up and offered to take him away. He took the offer, but Octavio quickly learned that he had made a mistake. They did not take him to the train, but instead they tied him up and took him to meet Dina, the powerful woman. He put money on Octavio to win. Again, Octavio was able to run away and get out of the parking lot. He went straight to the subway stop and into a closing train. A girl helped him get away. Octavio called Leonie, but she didn't answer because she was upset that she wasn't at his destination yet. When Beno and her men showed up, Octavio ran away again. When Octavio walked into the club, he used a BKO to knock out the man before facing his opponent. A group of people in the club gathered around the two and watched as they fought intensely. As it turned out, BKO was very strong and had already knocked Octavio out twice. But Octavio kept hitting him until BKO was out and couldn't get back up. Taking a big breath in, as Octavio left the club, he caught a glimpse of Paul. When he looked at his watch, he saw that Paul had been following him. He then talked to Paul face to face and confirmed that Paul had been following him so they could tell the others where he was. It was important for Chino and everyone else that Octavio won, so Paul tried to get him to go back to the ring and fight. It was important to Paul that they won and worked with Chino to make more money. but Octavio said no, because his only goal was to get to his daughter. Octavio and Paul broke up at that time. He looked at his watch and saw that he only had 17 minutes to get to Mina's house, where the party was. Before he went to Mina's, Octavio took care of his cuts at his parents' house. He had been resting for a while when Paul called him again. Octavio didn't say anything while Paul talked. Paul said sorry and admitted that setting up the fight was his plan. Then Paul asked where Octavio was, while someone pointed a gun at his head from behind. When Octavio realized what was going on, Paul kept talking. Rather than going to Leigh's birthday party, he told Paul that he was going to stay at a friend's place instead. Following the end of the call, Octavio thought about whether he still had the right to be Leonie's father, after making her sad every time he broke a promise, but his dad talked him out of it. Octavio finally made up his mind to keep going to Mina's house. He checked the time as he left his parents' house through the window. Seeing as how time was running out, he called Paul and told him he was leaving to get the cat from the animal shelter. He was going to give Leonie as a present, even though he said he was going to keep the cat for himself, since he was no longer going to Leon's. He was excited when Paul told him he would meet him at the cat shelter. He called Rico again after the call and told him that he really didn't know that the fight was set up. Rico got it, and he said he'd leave Octavio alone as long as he told them where Chino was. Agustin went to the animal rescue and knocked on the office window to get the person in charge of the shelter to open the door and give him the cat, but the guy still wouldn't let him in. He called Rico again and gave him the animal shelter's address. He called the Berlin police department after the call ended. As he kicked the shelter's door open and went inside, a police car was hit, and the men who did it were armed and dangerous, he said. They were told the address of the animal rescue and told to call the SWAT team. The animal shelter guy, on the other hand, kept saying that the men were really scared of Octavio, and did what Octavio told him to do. He gave Octavio the cat and left the area. When Octavio went outside, he saw Chino's men taking Paul hostage. 4 minutes before his time was up, Octavio let himself be pushed to the ground in silence. He then started threatening him with a gun, and all of a sudden, someone shot a gun at them. The men from Danica came and started shooting at Chino and the men from the ladder. In the end, a SWAT team showed up and arrested everyone. In the meantime, Chino had taken Octavio and Paul into an empty building close to the animal refuge. Chino got angry and shot Paul in the leg because he knew that Octavio was the one who told Dana about him. He was going to do the same thing to Octavio Cosa, but he struck Chino first. 2 people were up against 1, but Chino had a gun and could defend himself. He was strong enough to knock down Cosa but not strong enough to beat Octavio. At the exact moment that Octavio's time ran out, he pinned him to the wall. A club was used by Chino to stab Octavio in the back. Octavio fell to the ground, and Chino hit him over and over with the crowbar until Kima got up and attacked Chino. While Octavio got himself together, Kima went up against Chino by herself. But it was clear that Cosa was losing, and Octavio grabbed him from behind while Chino was thinking about something else. Put him in a choking hold, which let Kima punch him over and over. Chino then jumped up and kicked Kima, making her fall over the rails. Odysseus jumped up to the rails and looked down when he saw this, to find Kima dead on the ground, and thought the worst. Octavio lost his temper and beat Chino up. He hit Chino over and over until he was worn out, but Chino was strong enough to stand up. He had sat on the ground with his back against the wall. Octavio knew he had to give up fighting because the pain from the stabbing was back strong. He couldn't get close to Octavio, so he could only watch as Chino crept slowly toward him. The next morning, Kima woke up and got up. She kicked and punched Chino until she fell to the ground hurt. But Chino keeps getting back up, so it looks like nothing can really knock him down. With his new tool ready, he grabbed a piece of wood and raised his arms. They didn't seem to remember that Paul was still alive during the fight. He picked up Chino's gun and fired it at the ceiling. The moment Chino saw him, he was angry and screamed loudly to scare Paul. He ran away with his tail between his legs, though, because the latter shot at the wall next to him. Cosa went up to Paul and helped him stand up while Octavio stood alone. Paul told Octavio he was sorry for getting him in trouble, and Octavio let Paul off the hook because he didn't want to stay mad at his friend. Afterward, he took the cat's box and told Paul and Cosa to leave without him. When Octavio looked at the clock, he saw that his time was up. There were still 4 minutes left. Even though he was hurt, he still chose to go see his daughter. They ran into each other again on his way. He set the box down on a nearby table and got ready to fight Chino, when all of a sudden the latter fell to the ground. Octavio got clean with a bottle of water and took the cat out of the box. They put a cloth around it and walked away, after telling a man close to call the police on Chino, who was unconscious. He kept walking until he got to Mina's house, but his body gave out. He lost his balance and fell. He could no longer hold on to the cat, and left just as Leanie saw him leave the house. Leanie jumped on top of her dad and gave him a big hug when she saw him, making the man pleased. Mina left the house and looked around to see what was going on. She took the cat with her and told David everything was fine. She is no longer going to have full custody of Leanie. When Octavio saw Mina walk back into the house, he looked at it. He got it, and as he hugged his daughter tighter, he almost cried with happiness. If you like this movie, then don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. Thanks for watching.